भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमा श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Creation, Chapter 11, Lord Krishna's entrance to Dwaraka. Text number 14. Sammarjita Mahamarga. Sammarjita Mahamarga. Rathya Apanaka Chatvaram. Rathayapanaka Chatvaram. Siktam Gandajalaihi Uptam. Siktam Gandajaleruptam. Phala Pushpa Akshata Ankuraihi. Phalapushpakshatankuraihi. Sammarjita Mahamarga. Rathayapanaka Chatvaram. Siktam Gandajaleruptam. 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 Phalapushpakshatankuraihi. Sammarjita, thoroughly cleansed. Mahamarga, highways. Rathya, lanes and subways. Apanaka, shopping marketplaces. Chatvaram, public meeting places. Siktam, moistened with. Gandajalaihi, scented water. Uptam, was strewn with. Phala, fruits. Pushpa, flowers. Akshata, unbroken. Ankuraihi, seeds. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. The highways, subways, lanes, markets, and public meeting places were all thoroughly cleansed and then moistened with scented water. And to welcome the Lord, fruits, flowers, and unbroken seeds were strewn everywhere. Translation with repetition. The highways, subways, lanes, markets, and public meeting places were all thoroughly cleansed and then moistened with scented water. And to welcome the Lord, fruits, flowers, and unbroken seeds were strewn everywhere. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Scented waters prepared by distilling flowers like rose and kiora were requisitioned to wet the roads, streets, and lanes of Dwarka Dhama. Such places, along with the marketplace and public meeting places, were thoroughly cleansed. From the above description, it appears that the city of Dwarka Dhama was considerably big, containing many highways, streets, and public meeting places with parks, gardens, and reservoirs of water, all very nicely decorated with flowers and fruits. And to welcome the Lord, such flowers and fruits with unbroken seeds of grain were also strewn over the public places. Unbroken seeds of grain or fruits in the seedling stage were considered auspicious, and they are still so used by the Hindus in general on festival days. Thus ends the Transcendental Bhaktivedanta purport. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyata Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So, in this section of Bhagavatam, we are seeing how the residents of Dwarka Dham welcomed Lord Krishna. So, we can see in the last few verses, the city of Dwarka is being described as filled with great opulences. So we saw it has orchards, flower gardens, parks, reservoirs, and many other beautiful natural scenic beauty. And here in this verse, it has been described as what did the residents of Dwarka Dham, how did they further welcome the Supreme Lord. So here it is being said that the different places like Mahamarga, highways, Rathya, lanes and subways, Apanaka, shopping marketplaces, Chatvaram, public meeting places. So all these different places were sammarjita, were thoroughly cleansed. So this is very important to note that the word, the Prabhupada is translating this as thoroughly cleansed, not just cleansed, but thoroughly cleansed. And then after cleaning these different places, the highways, the lanes, sublanes, marketplaces, what else are they doing? So it is being said, Gandha Jaler Siktam. So it is being moistened with not ordinary water, but scented water. And then furthermore, Phala Pushpa Akshata Ankuraihi. So with fruits, Phala, Pushpa, flowers, and Ankurahi, seeds. What kind of seeds? Akshata, unbroken seeds. So all these things were Uktam. They were strewn around on these different places so as to welcome the Lord. So there is a reason why all these things are being done. And it is very important for us to pay attention. This is actually a very instructive verse as how to welcome the Lord. And the first word itself is very instructive. It says, sammarjita, thoroughly cleansed. Actually, Lord is all pure. And unless we are not pure, or it is not a pure place, the Lord will not descend there, will not stay there. And therefore it is very important to thoroughly cleanse a place, and more importantly, when our heart, for the Lord to come and be present. So, in this verse, Prabhupada begins the purport by saying that scented waters prepared by distilling flowers like rose and kiora were requisitioned to wet the roads, streets, and lanes of Dwarka Dham. So, we must understand, even today, if a big person comes, we do not moisten the roads with even water. Maybe the place where he's coming a little bit, one may do it, but not the so many different places like the streets, the lanes, the roads, and so on and so forth. But here, all of them were wetted. And how? With scented waters. And Prabhupada is explaining here as what is that scented water mean. So Prabhupada is explaining here that these scented waters are obtained by distilling flowers like rose and kiora. Actually, it's very interesting, the process of distillation, the way these flowers are, even today, they are distilled, rose and kiora, and it is, the rose petals are taken in large quantity, and they are put in a certain kinds of copper or some sort of vessels, huge containers, and then the steam is passed through them. When the steam is passed, because of the heat, the aromatic oils are released from the petals. And when these aromatic oils are released, along with the vapor, the steam, they go through a condenser. And there, they're allowed to cool. So when they're allowed to cool, the aromatic oils and the water, the vapor water, they get separated. And they form rose water and rose essential oil. And these are considered very fragrant. And even today, the same process is followed. In the sense, today, the same process to obtain these scented oils is followed. And it is interesting to note that it takes 3 to 4 tons of rose petals to make 1 kg of rose essential oil. And I quickly Googled it to see how expensive it is. For 2.5 ml of Bulgarian rose oil, essential oil, it costs $70, just 2.5 ml. So we can see how opulent Dwarka Dham must be, that they are using such to pour on the streets and make it, to welcome the Lord. Similarly, the kiora, or also known as kevra or kevda flowers, these are especially used in India and the state of Odisha. There is a district called Ganjam, where this process is still followed for many, many centuries and maybe millennia. As we can see, definitely it is there long back when Lord Krishna was present. So even there, in a traditional way, these flowers are distilled to produce aromatic oils and water. So even we use in the worship of the Lord, we use scented waters, and even during Abhishekam, various scented waters are used to bathe the Lord. So it is very important that the Lord should be given the best of the best things. And here we can see that the residents of Dwarka Dham are actually offering very nice things to welcome the Lord. And today, the same scented waters of like rose and kiora is considered to have multiple uses. So they're said to possess therapeutic value. So today it is used in something known as aromatherapy. So it seems that these oils and these waters tend to give very calming effect. It changes the mood and uplifts one. So it is prominently used in various therapies, it seems. And also, because they are so fragrant and so nice, these are also used in cooking. So we can see that actually Prabhupada says in another place that the Western food is tasteless, no vitamins, and neither good. But we can see in India, or the Vedic culture, is full of variegatedness, full of richness, and full of meaning, not simply of no value. Everything is filled with value, variegatedness, and richness. So we can see how this is being done by the residents of Dwarka in such wonderful, opulent way, which we find it very difficult to get today. They are just using to ensure that the Lord is welcome through all the streets with such beautiful scented waters. And furthermore, it is being said here that all these places were thoroughly cleansed. This is very important. And we will discuss a little more about this point of being thoroughly cleansed, as how it is so important to welcome the Lord. The whole process of Krishna consciousness is to cleanse ourselves. And Prabhupada has emphasized on this point of cleanliness repeatedly. And we will look at some of the pastimes also where Prabhupada is describing the importance of cleansing. And Prabhupada is saying, from all these descriptions, we can see that Dwarkadham is not a simple, small town or things, but it's considerably a big city because it contains so many highways, the public meeting spaces. Just like if you go, we can see a small meeting space called Harvard Square. So all these squares are meant to be public meeting places. So Harvard Square, Kendall Square, so people were supposed to come and meet, but they're very small. And very few we have in the city of Cambridge, but we don't even have a proper one in Shrewsbury. But we can see there are so many meeting places in Dwarkadham and the various descriptions which are given in the past verses. Furthermore, it's very important that today we use artificial ways to generate this fragrance, oils, and so on and so forth. But in Dwarkadham, they were all done with real flowers, real petals. So it shows the richness of the natural resources. The fruits were enough produced, the flowers were enough produced in the gardens. So there were enough natural resources that were present. And as we know, actually, if one becomes Krishna conscious, or if people become Krishna conscious, there will be no dearth of natural resources, because the Supreme Lord is the provider of all these resources. And Maya dakshana prakriti suyate sachara chara. So this material nature is functioning under the direction of the Supreme Lord. So actually, there will be never a deficiency if one is Krishna conscious. And in fact, Srila Prabhupada also says in another place, I've always taken risk for Krishna. I've always taken risk, because if one is Krishna conscious and if one takes risk, Prabhupada says Krishna provides everything. There will be never any deficiency. This is very important to note. So we can see here that these residents of Dwarkadham, they were not using a shortcut means to generate something. They're using the real natural resources to get these scented waters. And furthermore, Prabhupada says that to welcome the Lord, flowers, fruits, and unbroken seeds were strewn through all these marketplaces and public places to welcome the Lord. And Prabhupada is explaining that these are considered to be very auspicious. Ankurahi, seeds. So we also have a ceremony called Ankurarpanam before the Brahmotsava, where the seeds are sown, and it is considered very, very auspicious. And this ceremony is meant to take the determination to do the festival and take the blessings of the Lord, considered very, very auspicious. So we can see that everything which is auspicious is used by these residents of Dwarkadham to welcome the Lord. So this is very important principle as how we welcome the Lord. And as I briefly mentioned, that Prabhupada has emphasized on the importance of cleansing. So cleanliness is very, very important. In fact, Srila Prabhupada, when he was traveling across the world and in India also, different people would come and appreciate the cleanliness of the temples. In one place in Mahabaleshwaram, Srila Prabhupada was visiting a donor, and he has visited different temples, ISKCON temples across the world, and he was very appreciative of Prabhupada, and he said, Prabhupada, I traveled to so many different temples, ISKCON temples all over the world, and I've also traveled to various temples in India. One thing which differentiates ISKCON temples from other temples is that cleanliness. Even in Rishikesh, even in India, we don't have such wonderful clean temples, but your temples are very clean. And Prabhupada said, yes, I'm very particular about cleanliness. And I chastise my devotees, disciples, if they don't keep the things clean. So Prabhupada was again and again appreciated for the high standards of cleanliness that is being maintained in various temples, ISKCON temples. So as we sing early in the morning, Tan Mandira Marjanado. So the spiritual master engages himself in the worship of the Lord, the deity, and also engages his disciples to beautifully decorate the deities and to cleanse the temple. So cleaning a temple is very, very important. Especially the worship of Radha Krishna means very, very high standard of cleanliness. And Prabhupada emphasized this, and Prabhupada always appreciated whenever devotees wrote to Prabhupada saying that the high standards of deity services were maintained in the temple, and Prabhupada would see the cleanliness, and if he sees that things are maintained very clean, he would be very, very appreciative. So Prabhupada talked about cleanliness on two levels. One is external cleanliness, and another is internal cleanliness. So the external cleanliness is in terms of individuals, taking bath, brushing teeth, being shaven head, not having long hairs, and wearing clean clothes. So Prabhupada gave various instructions and how it is important that everyone remains clean externally also. So recommending people to take at least twice, bathing twice at least, if not 3 times, and evacuating, cleaning one's stomach, emptying one's stomach, and so on and so forth. So Prabhupada emphasized devotees to learn, and especially Prabhupada was dealing with the Western disciples who were not accustomed to all these things. So Prabhupada had to personally teach. And Harishwari Prabhu, explaining, he was a personal servant of Srila Prabhupada for a few years, and he recollects saying that how Prabhupada very patiently taught this principle of cleanliness to different disciples at different points of time without being agitated or being angry. In a sense, he would become mildly angry or chastised, but he very patiently taught this important principle of cleanliness to all his servants and all his disciples whenever he used to meet. So the external cleanliness is one aspect, and the other aspect is internal cleanliness. So these two cleanliness is very, very important. And internal cleanliness means to chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra. That's what Prabhupada said, is to chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So by chanting, we can keep our inner self cleansed. That means our mind, our intellect, our ego, they can be contaminated with various things. And it is very important to cleanse all these layers to actually welcome the Lord. Without being clean inside, we cannot really invite Lord. And the Lord cannot be seated in our heart if our heart is filled with so much of dirt. We will see some of the aspects of what constitutes dirt inside our heart. So this is very important, that both internal and external cleanliness is very, very important to welcome the Lord. And especially in this age of Kali Yuga, it is even more important, because in the 12th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, which talks about this age of Kali Yuga, how it deteriorates, and in that specifically the 2nd chapter talks about the symptoms of Kali Yuga. In that the very first verse, Sukadeva Goswami talks about the different symptoms of Kali Yuga. And there he says, Sri Shuka Uvacha, Tataschanu dinam dharmaha satyam saucham shamadaya kalena balina rajan nangshanti ayur balam smritihi. So it is being said, nangshati, all these things will be ruined or decreased. What are those things? Dharmaha, religion, satyam, truthfulness, saucham, cleanliness, and shama, mercy, shama, tolerance, daya, mercy, strength, And all these qualities, ayuhu, duration of life, they will start reducing. So more and more as Kali Yuga progresses, people will become unclean, both externally and internally. So they become externally unclean because they engage in sinful activities. So because of the sinful activities of meat eating, intoxication, gambling, illicit sex, it contaminates both inside and outside of an individual. So people are very, very unclean, especially inside their heart. People are hypocritic. People act in one way outwardly, but inside they have something else in the heart. And the tendency to commit sinful activities is very rampant in Kali Yuga. The desire and the propensity to enjoy material life is very strong. So this has to be cleansed. So unless this desire, this unclean habit to enjoy material world, material desires, if it is not cleansed, we cannot worship the Lord, we cannot welcome the Lord properly. So especially in this age, purification is very, very more important. And one simple way of purifying, as we saw, is that chanting of Hare Krishna Mahamantra. There are various recommendations of how we can become pure. So one of the mantras that we chant in the morning is Apavitro Pavitro Va Sarva Avastam Gatopi Va Yas Maret Pundarikaksham Sa Bahya Bhahyantara Suchihi. So this verse from Garuda Purana says that Apavitro Pavitro Va. So either one is impure or pure. Sarva Avastam Gatopi Va. Or if one has passed through different kinds of material life, doesn't matter. But if Yas Maret Pundarikaksham, if one remembers the lotus-eyed Lord, the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna, then Saha Hi Bahya Abhyantaraha Suchihi. He becomes cleansed both inside and outside. Remembering the Lord is a very, very easy way to become purified. So actually, as soon as we wake up in the morning, we should remember the Lord. We should chant His holy name. That way we become purified. Otherwise, our consciousness, as Prabhupada says, just like you capture a camera, which is capturing different images at different points, at every point of time, we are experiencing different things. And that is getting stored inside our subconscious mind and subconsciousness, where we are getting captivated by different material things. Or by different things, Sometimes we become envious, or we sometimes develop greed, sometimes we develop lust. So all these different things can impact us, impact our consciousness. But by simply remembering the Lord, we can become cleansed. We can become clean, suchihi. So it is also said in Bhagavad Gita that in the different items of knowledge which is mentioned, Saucham, or cleanliness, is one of these items that one has to be clean. And similarly, the qualities of Brahmana means to be very clean. And in another place in Bhagavad Gita that is mentioned is the qualities of demons. So demons are those who neither know what to do, what not to do, and neither they have any idea of what is cleanliness and how to be clean. So it is a very important quality. Prabhupada in other places says, quite often Prabhupada said cleanliness is next to godliness, and in various ways Prabhupada emphasized the importance of cleanliness. And maybe before we go to some of the pastimes of Prabhupada, I would like to talk about one aspect where Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally demonstrated the importance of cleanliness. And this is Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Lord Krishna himself, who has come in the form of a devotee, so as to teach us how we can become a devotee. Because we need a personal example, we need a leader who can show by example how to follow. And Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally cleansed Gundicha temple. So during the Rath Yatra procession, Lord Jagannath, Baldev and Subhadra Maya, they travel to this temple called Gundicha temple. And so to welcome the Lord Jagannath, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally cleanses the temple. And in this, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he invites Kashi Mishra, and then the temple superintendent, and I think Swarup Damodar, and he does the planning, how to clean the temple. And then they ask the king to provide with hundreds of earthen pots, 100 brooms, 100 people. They all come together to clean the temple. And so there are different areas of the temple, the main temple hall, then the cooking space, then in this way there are different places. All of these places are cleansed one after another, one after another, one after another. So first the entire temple hall was bloomed, and then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally ensured that everyone is cleansing properly. And if he sees someone who's doing very well, he will go and appreciate. And if someone is not doing well, he would chastise them, and he would tell them to learn from the ones who are doing well. And the ones who are doing well, he would tell them to teach others how to do it properly. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it is said, Krishnadas Goswami says, that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared like he had 100 hands and is cleaning the job of 100 people. All the 100 people are doing one amount of work, and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu seemed to do that entire work by himself. And he was so meticulous, he was so particular, he was trying to see that every speck of dust is taken out from the temple. And then then Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, bring water. So they would go to the lake, fill the pots, and it seemed that because there were 100 people who were at the bank of that lake, it was so crowded, so that some of them would have to go to another well or find some other place to get water. And they would all come together and then pour water to clean the temple hall. And not only the flooring, but even the ceiling, the walls, everything was cleansed very meticulously. And not only was the first time, but the second time also it was cleansed. So there is significance of this aspect of what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is demonstrating in this aspect of cleansing. So there are many different aspects which are mentioned in this section of things. And why Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is cleansing twice? And not only Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was cleansing the temple twice, but he was also cleansing the areas outside the periphery of the temple, so that the so-called dust, the dust which went away, may not come back. And in this section, there is a wonderful purport by Srila Prabhupada, where Prabhupada is quoting Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj, where he is talking about the different kinds of dirt that we have in our heart. So there are various things in our heart which are present. So one of them is the gross contamination. The gross contamination is to enjoy this material world. And one of the ways Prabhupada says that we want to do is by economic development. So economic development is one of the ways in which people want to enjoy material world. So people think that this idea of economic enjoyment means, economic development means material enjoyment. So we can see the whole world talking about this one thing called economic development. The news is filled with economic development, so that one can enjoy one's senses. The whole goal of earning is to enjoy material senses. So in this way, there are various ways in which people want to enjoy. And then the tendency to eat meat, intoxication, gambling, illicit sex, this is another kind of gross material enjoyment. So people have these things in the heart. So if these things are present, then one cannot have the Lord. So here it is mentioned, the material desire is explained as a desire to enjoy the material world to its fullest extent. In modern language, this is called economic development. An inordinate desire for economic development is considered to be like straws and grains of sand within the heart. If one is overly engaged in material activity, the heart will always remain disturbed. So this is very important to note. If one is too eager to just make economic development, the heart cannot be peaceful. There will be disturbance all the time. Just like we can see today, just for economic development, people have to struggle so much to maintain their visa. They have to go and beg anyone to get a job, do anything to be with a consultancy, to do this, to do that. So much of difficulty just to maintain oneself and to have some economic things. And Prabhupada quotes Narottama Das Thakur, Samsare Vishanale Diva Nishi Hiya Jwale Judaite Na Kainu Upaye. In other words, endeavor for material opulence is against the principle of devotional service. Material enjoyment includes activities such as great sacrifices for auspicious activity, charity, austerity, elevation to the higher planetary system, and even living happily within the material world. And we can see here how elaborate is the definition of material enjoyment is being given, that not only just trying to have this gross happiness, but even to aspire to do auspicious sacrifices, charities, austerities, or even to remain happily in heavenly planets. All these are considered to be material enjoyment. So there is a spectrum of material enjoyment from the grossest to the subtlest. All these are unfavorable for devotional service. In fact, it's written against the principle of devotional service. So if one is aspiring, that doesn't allow one's heart to be in its pure form. So Prabhupada is saying that this modernized material benefits are compared to the dust. And therefore, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he is cleansing this dust, that is representing the cleansing of the modernized, these material things that we are aspiring after. So when this dust is agitated by the whirlwind of fruitive activity, it overcomes the heart. So the tendency to fruitive mentality, to enjoy something for oneself, is very deep down. That has to be cleansed, which is unfavorable for devotional service. And people also have these various tendencies to do various rituals, various activities, so that some benefit, some material benefit comes to us. That's why it's very important to understand that chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra is beyond all these things. It is a transcendental process to associate with the Lord directly, beyond all these auspicious, inauspicious, all these material considerations. It's beyond all of them. So, furthermore, there is the aspect of subtle gratification in the form of impersonalism, where one wants to become the Supreme Lord, merge into Brahman. So even that is not considered favorable for devotional service. That is also material contamination in the heart. That is not pure. That is also not favorable for devotional service. Even that has to be cleansed. And then there are, here it is being said, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has shown us that all the grains of sand must be picked up thoroughly and thrown outside. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also cleansed the outside of the temple, fearing that the grains of sand would again come within. So this is a very important point to remember. We may clean, but the dust may come again. And therefore Prabhupada warned that one should not think one is very advanced, because the mind can cheat us. As soon as we think we are very advanced, we can be trapped by the material energy. And just like little inattention can cause, blood can come. So similarly, little inattention in our devotional life can bring great trouble. The example is Bharat Maharaj. Although he was so elevated, just a little attachment to the deer, he had to take couple of more births before he gets the highest perfection. So, in this connection, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur explains that even though one may become free from the desire for fruitive activities, sometimes the subtle desire for fruitive activity again comes into being within the heart. So, there is gross kind of fruitive activity, that may tend to go away as we become devotees, but then the subtle desire for fruitive activity may come. And what is this subtle desire for fruitive activity? That is mentioned here, which is very important. But the contamination is so strong that it may be later developed into misunderstanding, described as kutinati. Kutinati means fault finding. So as one becomes slightly more advanced, one can try to find faults. Pratishtha, the desire for name and fame and for high position. Jiva himsa, envy of other living entities. Nishidachara, accepting things forbidden in the Shastras. Kama, desire for material gain. And puja, hankering for popularity. The word kutinati means duplicity. So people can become duplicitous in a very fine way. Just like the modern world, the political leaders and so-called leaders of various institutions, very minutely they can use nice words and engage in wars. They can create a nice narrative as why they should engage in a war or why they should do something which is not beneficial for the public. Similarly, one may overcome the gross tendencies to enjoy, but one may develop certain sort of fault-finding or duplicitous nature in oneself. And this can come back. The gross things may go, but the subtle things can come back. So one has to be very, very careful. Another example, another thing is pratishtha, or desire for name and fame and for high position. And Prabhupada gives the example of some devotees trying to chant in solitary place and appear like Haridas Thakur. Haridas Thakur was chanting in a solitary place and he was chanting 22 hours a day. But to appear like Haridas Thakur, to get some name, he's Babaji, is so elevated that he doesn't talk to anyone, he's sitting in one place and chanting. So actually they're not elevated to that level, but they're desiring to get that name and fame. That is also a subtle, fruitive. It looks like they're doing devotional service, but with an aim to be recognized by someone, he's a great devotee chanting silently. That is also not purity, it's a contamination. And pratishtha and the desire for high position. So even in devotional life, one may aspire. I was recently talking to a devotee who was aspiring to become a full-time devotee, and he was talking about, Prabhu, looks like once one reaches the higher position in devotional life, the life is much better. Somewhere or other, maybe I should aspire to quickly go to the higher position. You see, so there is a misconception that one should acquire higher position. Actually, a devotee is satisfied simply by doing devotional service. He doesn't aspire for this position or that position. Is completely satisfied simply by rendering devotional service. Then it is said, jiva himsa, envy of other living entities. And in fact, in pratishtha, it is being said that a neophyte devotee is certain to be attacked by other material desires as well, namely desires for women and money. In this way, the heart is again filled with dirty things and becomes harder and harder, like that of a materialist. So a devotee should also be very careful. Anytime these tendencies of fruitive activity or material enjoyment can come back again. And gradually, one can desire to become a reputed devotee. Even that is a subtle contamination, that I should be seen very well. So there is greater and greater fineness of contamination, and even to the point of an avatar or an incarnation. And then the other kind of contamination is jiva himsa, envy of other living entities. And here, Prabhupada explains, jiva himsa means stopping the preaching of Krishna consciousness. Preaching work is described as paropakara, welfare activity for others. Those who are ignorant of the benefits of devotional service must be educated by preaching. If one stops preaching and simply sits down in a solitary place, he is engaging in material activity. So, Prabhupada is emphasizing, Jiva Himsa means envy of other living entities. So if one is actually not benefiting them by giving Krishna consciousness or this knowledge about devotional life, actually one is causing harm to others. And the actual way of doing real benefit is to preaching Paropakar, which is Prabhupada is saying is the real welfare activity for others. So that should not be stopped. If someone is stopping that, that is considered as Jiva Himsa. And furthermore, Prabhupada says, if one desires to make a compromise with the Mayavadis, he is also engaged in material activity. A devotee should never compromise with non-devotees or Mayavadis. One should not ascribe to their philosophy or, to please them, act in specific ways. Similarly, there are different aspects of Jiva Himsa as described here. And these are all to be considered as dust, straw, and grains of sand within the heart. So this is another important principle. To give us practical instructions, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu cleansed the temple twice. His second cleansing was more thorough. The idea was to throw away all the stumbling blocks on the path of devotional service. He cleansed the temple with firm conviction, as is evident from his using his own personal garments for cleaning. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to see personally that the temple was thoroughly cleansed to the standard of clean marble. Clean marble gives a cooling effect. Devotional service means attaining peace from all disturbances caused by material contamination. In other words, it is the process by which the mind is cooled. So, Prabhupada is saying that Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu cleansed second time more thoroughly, and he did it with his own personal garments. So, unless all these stumbling blocks or the dust of material contamination is not taken away, one cannot make progress in devotional life. In fact, this is called anartha nivritti. Anartha nivritti means unwanted habits one should give up. One has to, the unwanted things which are present in one's heart must go away so as to make further advancement in devotional life. Until then, one will not be steady in devotional life. But as the unwanted things in the heart vanquishes, one becomes steady in life. So basically, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is personally teaching that how one should cleanse one's heart, and especially Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Cheto Darpana Marjanam, Sammarjita, cleansing by chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And he's practically demonstrating how one should keep the temple very clean. And that is the way we should invite Lord Krishna to sit down in our hearts. So unless we don't cleanse our inside heart, we cannot welcome the Lord. And Prabhupada writes, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to teach every devotee by his own personal behavior. Everyone who spreads the cult of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepts a similar responsibility. So this is very important that Lord is personally teaching us that we should be very thoroughly cleansing the temple and heart by chanting without offenses. In that way, we can invite the Lord, and we can see here the Dwarka Vasis are demonstrating that by practical example, how wonderfully they are cleaning and welcoming the Lord by strewing different fruits, flowers, and unbroken seeds. So this is very nice that we should also be very careful in our heart and mind to see how is our heart and mind. So there is a gross material tendencies, then there are subtle material tendencies. So both have to be cleansed, and it has to be done very carefully. And the simple process is to chant, to hear Srimad Bhagavatam. As we know, Shrunvatam Swakata Krishna, Punya Shravana Kirtana, Hridyantasto hi abhadrani. So in our heart there are so many abhadra, the desire to enjoy material things. Vidunoti is cleansed by the Supreme Lord who is present in our heart. When we hear Srimad Bhagavatam, all these material propensities will vanquish. Therefore, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam is very important. And practical cleansing the temple, cleaning the temple is very important. Prabhupada said again and again that the more we clean the temple, the more our heart is clean. So the more we decorate the deities nicely, the more our heart is clean. So the more we engage in cleaning the temple and hearing Bhagavatam and chanting Hare Krishna Mantra, this will all help us to purify our hearts And as we chant the name of the Lord, as we become pure inside, naturally we will also develop the taste or the inclination to keep everything around us clean. And we have to learn both external and internal cleanliness, and in this way we can welcome the Lord. I'll stop here and see if there are any questions or comments.